I wanted to make this video just because I used to be agnostic, and I used to be. I'm the biggest skeptic I know when it comes to things that that I haven't seen myself and that I haven't experienced, and sometimes I want proof of or just to experience myself, and sometimes things that just seem out of this world that I don't understand. I feel like it's easy to get skeptical when you haven't experienced something for yourself. But I hope that through this story, I'm kind of just going off script. I'm not really trying to. I'm not writing anything up, but just kind of letting my story and just my experience maybe shape your opinion about this. But I am thoroughly convinced now that the material worldview, where we're just a bunch of matter floating around, just chemically, combining with each other, and there's no spiritual element at all. That just doesn't exist. That's not the truth. And I've had many experiences that just absolutely contradict this out of the water. And and potentially just that Jesus is the way. And I know you're probably already going to click off because you're like, oh, you're a Christian. All right, I can't, like you're just going to throw, something that doesn't make sense, or, just, isn't backed by anything. But I'm here to give proof. I'm here to share my story. And, you can decide what you think of it, what you want. That's up to you. I just felt like I needed to make this video, just with everything that I've seen, everything that I've experienced, and just what seems like divine guidance in my life, and just something that I can't explain. I'm just as clueless as everybody else in terms of where we come from, what, and everything like that. But I can't ignore the facts and the things that I've experienced, and stuff like that. So with that being said, just a little background on me. I used to be agnostic. I was a big skeptic. I didn't really, I thought it was unlikely that there was a God. It was like, you would think that something would be shown, if that was the case, and I was never really shown that. I was never really shown anything spiritual or supernatural, nothing like that at all. And in fact, I was very, very scientific. In fact, my philosophy in life was just chase after things that make people the most happy, and try and have as much pleasure, and I was basically hedonist. Like I was like, anything that was pleasing to me, and made it, it was collectively for the good of others. Like I was like, it's like that's how I was going to live my life. And I was like, and for the most part it worked for me. But obviously everybody has problems in life. I suffered. Obviously I have my own problems and things that I went through. I went through a lot of loneliness. I was socially awkward. I still am a little bit. And I didn't, I didn't have a lot of friends, and really any that were super close to me or wouldn't be just lost, when I moved, or different jobs, or things like that, or from like schools and stuff like that. So I never really had a friend group at all. And so I'm really big into thinking about things deeply, very philosophical, very scientific. I'm very skeptical. I'm very skeptical. And so at one point, this is actually how I started to be introduced to the idea of God. I had never really been introduced to religion. Like, I had heard about it, but I was like, I never really looked into it. I never really, I never really, I thought it was more of like a coping mechanism, to be honest. Like, I was like, I don't need it. I'm like, I'm good. I have my life figured out strategy wise. I didn't feel like I needed God, or the idea of God, anyways. And so I work with a coworker of mine, and he's a Christian, so he was able to introduce me to the concept of Jesus and and the Bible and stuff like that. But I was like, I was skeptical. I debated with him a few times. I wasn't convinced at the time, but so at work, we had an kind of this. So the way that our company works is, we develop software for clients, and we worked on the same team, though he lives out in Iowa. So we were coworkers. We talked a lot about things, and we had similar ideas and whatnot for the most part. And so I went over to Iowa for this convention that the client was having, and he let me stay with him that time, and so I went over to Iowa. He let me stay at his house, and we just talked. We hung out a lot. We're just like going to different places, just checking out Iowa and basically what they have, and it was more like the down Des Moines area, so it was a lot of stuff to do there, we got talking, and I like during that time I was really big into like our existence, just getting into whole existentialism, and just like, man, like just the fact that we exist, right? And I don't think it was coincidence that I thought about this. I think at the time God was definitely pushing those, or at least the Holy Spirit was kind of convicting me of those things. And I know you're probably like, all right, yeah, that's crap. Like, whatever, fine. Like we'll assume that, right? Like all right, we'll take the skeptical opinion, all right. Because that's understandable. I mean, like, all right, like, okay, yeah, you thought of something that doesn't prove anything. Okay, fine. And there's so much. All right, so I'm really thinking like about consciousness, and I find consciousness just fascinating. And so we were talking about that, and and this is where he kind of introduced the idea of God to me. We talked back and forth. I wasn't convinced at the time. And I, after the trip was over, we talked about some things. I was just like, I had a lot of questions. I was like, I wasn't convinced. I was like, well, why is there evil? Why is there evil? Why is it even necessary for him to pay for it? Like, why can't he just, redeem us instantly, right? Like, there's, obviously, some of those questions are not going to be answered. And so, but anyways, I was in my office one day, and I just had an epiphany. I was thinking more about consciousness. I was just like, man, like the fact that we are conscious, like like, you can have something that's material, right? You can have a universe that has matter, stuff like that, right? You have all these, atoms and like chemically, like the material world does not account for the idea of consciousness. Like, there is a perspective, whether there's just one consciousness that's, like, I don't know, that's taken different forms of that, or the fact that, or there could be multiple, right? Like, you could have multiple individual things that are conscious. It doesn't explain the fact that there is an absolute perspective. Like, if you think about your consciousness, right? Like it's absolute. Like, there is something outside of material that brings this reality into existence, if that makes sense. Like it exists, like the outside of material, like because you could have things that are unconscious, right? Like things could be autonomous and there's not conscious beings a part of it, right? Like, it could just be the material world doing whatever it's doing, right? Like, you don't need consciousness to accomplish that. But the fact that there is, it just made me think, okay, there has to be something besides this material. So, okay, like, yeah, you have consciousness in the material, but like, and so, I don't know, there's just something else. And when you think about that, it makes it potentially plausible that it's like, okay, well, the state of being, right? Like, there could be a God, like, the fact that, I mean, think about, like, the fact that, like, we dream, and our dreams, like, we can be conscious, like, so we have conscious, like, we remember our dreams, but in our dreams, sometimes we forget about reality, like, outside of that dream, right? And it's like, I don't know, it's just kind of the idea of that, like, God could be, in a way, like, dreaming up this reality is interesting. But, like, I mean, that's just my own just kind of theoretical, like, thing, right? So that got me interested in, is like, okay, well, maybe there's something to this. Maybe my friend was right about a little bit about this. Like, I haven't really looked into Christianity. I haven't really, done that. So I was like, all right, like, I'll give it a shot. I'm like, worst case scenario is just turns out to be a bunch of crap. Like, I don't know, like, and I felt convicted to go to church, to a church. I've never been to a church in my entire life. Like, I was very, not like, my parents were even kind of were very like, I mean, they didn't go to church at all either. So it was like, the religious side of them, like, even though they were Catholic at one point, they kind of stopped going to church a long time ago, even before I was born. So it was like, we never went to church. God was never discussed to me. Never really had much of a perspective into Christianity. So I was like, okay, I never really had a reason to believe, or anything like that. So I look up on the map, I feel like this is already going to be a long video, but I look up on the map. I'm like, all right, I'll find a church near me, whatever. I go to a church right next to me. Is like 5 minutes away, like, really close by. And I get there, and I have no idea what to do. And during that time, I'd been struggling with loneliness. I never could find a way to connect with people and to really, I don't know, just find a group of people that, that actually cared, that I actually felt like they cared. And I mean, that's definitely partly my fault, with how I was. But it just kind of sucked because I couldn't find anything genuine connection wise. And I remember I went in the church for the first time. I was like, I don't even know what's going on. Like, I don't know, I don't know how this works, what to do. And I was sitting down, and a woman introduced herself to me. I was just like gonna sit back, lay back. I was like, I'm not, I'm just here to observe, and learn, and just like I wasn't really doing much. I mean, she was very kind. She guided me through that whole process that day, and it made it feel at home. And I know you're thinking like, all right, like, this is just emotional ties, but that's not where I was converted, or like, that day was very memorable. It was very powerful, and from that day going on, I met a really good group of friends, and my loneliness was completely taken away after that day. I mean, I think that same day, like, there was something else that day, and I was interested because, like, I just remember being in that church, and I was like, I looked at the congregation, and I could just feel this welcome and loving, and something I had never felt before when I went into that church that day. And I didn't know anybody there, but there was something that clicked into me that caught my attention, that was like, wow, this is what I was looking for my entire life. Because I had a business that I was going to start up, just to try and to basically combat loneliness. I was gonna, I was like, I wanted to. I was very passionate about it because I had suffered through probably the worst of it, and they I lost passion for it because I had found what I had been looking for, but basically the answer to loneliness and the problem of it is like, just like go to church, and like you just feel so welcome there. And I know not every church is like this. I feel like, looking back at it and seeing some of the different churches, some churches can feel impersonal. And I mean, that was like with, the Catholic Church, at least with my parents, it was very much like that, and certain churches feel very impersonal, but this one, it was a Protestant church, but it just felt so welcoming. It was just a different atmosphere, and I found some good friends out of that, a good friend group, and God, going on to this day, I have not felt lonely in that time. And I was lonely through COVID, and I had been battling it for a long time. I was always socially awkward. I always had issues trying to get friends, and now I have a good set of friends who actually care, and I can go to with almost anything, like pretty much anything. And so it changed. It was definitely changing for me, and that doesn't prove anything. All right, like that, like, all right. So that's kind of how I got started with Christianity. That's not even the testimony. All right, this is just my background, how I got started along this path, and my walk with God. And it's like, so, okay, cool. Like, you're probably thinking, okay, well, that's just emotional. I understand. I felt the same way. I was like, well, I don't know that, right? I mean, like, obviously, being lonely is dramatic. Understandable. All right, fine. That's great. Okay, so that's kind of the first thing. obviously I feel like God took away my loneliness that day. And just continuing on, that was you can say what you want. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't take away my loneliness. Maybe I just like to believe that that's fine. But one thing that I can't explain, and I can't divulge the whole story because obviously it's personal to me and my family. But I had not always been the closest with my parents. I was very self-centered. I felt like I couldn't really be open with my parents, and there was just some family stuff that it just prevented me from being fully close to them, fully, just, I don't know, fully in good relation, I don't know. We were close, but like just not, I could never really open up to them. And, there's just things that, that were just a struggle for me. I would try to forgive them but I couldn't. I had a bit of resentment, a little bit, and I just remember one day, so I had been trying to get my parents to go to church with me, because I thought I found something really good, and it was enough to make me really convinced on it and convicted about it. There was just a lot of stuff that I was just starting to see, a lot of testimonies that I heard from people in the church, that was just like, this could actually be something. I wasn't fully convinced, but I had doubts, but it was enough for me to start walking in that direction. And I was still battling my agnostic ideology, because I was like, I don't know. Maybe, it's like, this is very coincidental, but it's like, okay. And so, yeah, I managed to get my parents to come. I managed to get them to come to my church, because I knew it was the right thing to do. I was reading the Bible, and that was one of the things that I was convicted on, was like, I should honor my mom and dad. So I was like, you know what? All right. Like, I'll invite them, to church. Even though I went to church alone that day, by the way, the first day that I went to church. And so I went with them to church one day, and they had been going for a while. We had tried a couple different churches, but the one that I originally visited the very first day, that was the one where this happened at. And so I took, they were with me one day, and I was feeling like emotionally dead. Like, I was just out of it. I was just like, I don't know, I was kind of apathetic. I was just going through the motions that day. Like, if you've ever been in church, if you're ever just like, I'm just there to be there. Like, I'm not really, I don't know. So I was just kind of apathetic, just in general. I felt like something was just weighing me down. I couldn't tell what it was. I was just like, I was like apathetic. I didn't really think much of it. And so I get to, but like, we get to this main service part, because I did pre-service prayer. So we would pray before service, and, my parents weren't involved with that, but they would come with me during the service. So during main service, I think it was my dad that went up, just, praying about some things. Again, kind of personal. I can't really divulge that, but, I felt like I was like, I should probably go up, just put my hands on him. I wasn't really, I just wasn't emotionally, I was just like, I don't know, I didn't really care about anything in the moment, and, I was very selfish. So it's, it was just, I don't know. I couldn't explain it. I just wasn't really feeling much. And so I went up and I was like, oh, I'll just put my hands on him, as he's being prayed over, it's just like as a good son should do. And I just remember as they started to pray over him, I just get this overwhelming sense to cry and to like a great sorrow for my dad. And I end up weeping in front of the congregation so hard. Like I cannot, it was so supernaturally charged, and I felt like a weight was lifted off of me in a way that was like I had never felt that before. It felt freeing, and like I don't even know. I can't even describe it. Like one moment I was apathetic, and the next I was just bawling. Like I was like it was, nothing was said that made me do that. The only way I can describe it was God had put his hand on me, and just like, I wept harder than I had ever probably wept before. Like I'd been lonely, and I've had nights where I've cried, but I have not cried as hard as I did in that congregation. And anybody who was there can, and can remember that, can testify to that. I can't explain that. And there were some things that were prophesied over us as this was happening. I only remember the fact that there would be some, like this wasn't the end of it, and that there's things that were worked on in our family. And from that day going forward, my relationship with my family has only gotten better. It has only been improved. Just recently my dad wants to get baptized, and he wants me to do it. And I'm so glad to, and I just, yeah, I mean, just looking back at it is like, I don't know how that would have happened. Like, I can't explain by natural means, because I had been trying so hard to get right with, my family. Like I really would try. Like I really tried. But I could never fully get back to how things were, and because I feel like we were a lot tighter. I mean, just with COVID and everything, and my own school situation, and just my own loneliness, it kind of pushed me away from my family. And when I was over at my coworker's house, I felt, I don't know, I can't even describe it. It just felt great to have someone who was hospitable. And I don't know, I know that I felt like I was missing something in my own life. And so, and that's not okay. So that's like, I feel like we're just getting started with things that are wild. All right, like, now you could still mark that up to chances, like, okay, you had trauma and things just happen to get better. You happen to find some friends. You happen to do all these things. All right, this is in the span of 1 year. Okay, like not even a year. Okay, like couple months. Like this is like in the first few months, so much has already been happening, right, with that. And I've heard so many testimonies from other people, and it's just like things are, starting to add up. So like, I had, and I'm not going to lie, I've been asking, God for things to help my belief, because, I still doubt. I still had struggle with my belief. And, it's natural to doubt, because, my whole life I had believed that, we were nothing more than just matter and just chemicals, interacting with each other and stuff like that. And But then, I also had been getting, and so this is like adding on even further. All right, we're not even halfway done with this. All right, so this is only going to get crazier. All right, if you stick with me here, because I know you're probably like, okay, this doesn't prove anything. Okay, and so there's been a couple times when I have just felt at random, like I was just like in my office, at work, and I just get this sudden, overwhelming sense of love. Like I am loved so deeply, that, like, and it makes me want to like implode. Like I can't even describe it. It's so, once you feel that, like, it is the best feeling I have ever felt. And I started weeping, just, and this happened a couple of times, and it just, like, I felt loved, and I like nothing caused it. It was just random. It was just out of the blue. I can't describe it. Like, words can't even begin to explain that. And so that was, again, another little thing, but it was impactful for me. But then, okay, here's the juicy stuff. Okay, so I can't remember when this was in my walk, but with it, probably within the first year, I received, so basically there was a moment in time when my parents, no, it was actually, so basically we had this sermon on basically, it had to do something with like the book of life, and like, basically, kind of the end of the days, basically with the white throne judgment and stuff like that. And I don't know what prompted me to think of this. Again, I think it was the Holy Spirit, but, to each their own. You can think what you want. Maybe I just happened to have a random thought to go check for this. But I remember, so I used to be like, have a period of time, like when I was really young. I think it was based upon the journal entries that I have. It was about 2010 ish, around there. I don't know exactly when I wrote it, but I used to write some like fictional kind of like stories and stuff like that. Like I wrote one of like special operations. Like I was really big into like war, and like I was into Lord of the Rings. I still am. I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So I like to create stuff like that. Just anything fantasy, kind of like like medieval times kind of elements to it, or like special operations. So I was like, okay, I wanted to write my own stories, and so I did. I ended up writing 2 different stories. One was kind of a special ops kind of mission type thing, and then another was more of like medieval, like kind of like quest type like stuff. And I could have swore at the time when I heard this sermon, I was like, I thought maybe I wrote a book called The Book of Life. And so I was like, okay, let me see if my parents kept some of the work that I did. Because, like, dude, my parents keep everything, and I don't think it was a coincidence that they kept that, because thank God for that, because, bro, like, all right, so I asked my parents, I was like, you still have like some of like the stories that I wrote? Because I shared those stories with my parents. So I was like, okay, maybe I can see what I wrote back then, because I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So I went and went over to my parents' house, started looking through it, and I found it. And I found very book that I wrote. I say journal because it was part of it's a notebook, and I did. It wasn't the Book of Life, but it was something very similar. It was called the Book of Realms, and now I know that you're like, okay, well, that like, all right, it's not even the same thing. That's fine. But what I did find, so I was like, I guess not. So I kind of read through it once. I was like, well, I wonder if like anything, I don't know, like maybe God had spoken to me when I was young, when I didn't even know him. And I don't even know, again, I don't know what prompts me with these things. Again, I think it's the Holy Spirit or something spiritual at work here. But again, you can believe that. But by the end of this video, I guarantee you're probably not going to think about it like that. I was prompted. I just felt like I was like, well, like let me look this up on the internet. Like maybe there's something out there. I don't even know why I looked on the internet for this. To be honest, this was not me. To be honest, now that I like look back at that, I don't even know why I looked this up, but I did, and I found a book on Amazon called The Book of Realms. Now, in this story, I'll flip to page 2 because that's where I wrote about it. I said, so I'll probably post pictures of this in the description, somewhere, or like some way to view this so that you can read it for yourself. You can see I'm not lying. I have no reason to lie about this. I wrote so much, like about 27 pages of this stuff. So like I had a lot of time on my hands back then, but like I don't know why I would make this stuff up. But basically it on page 2 it talks about basically like in the plot for the story that I wrote, basically we were trying to destroy this book because like this book had so much power, like so much and like basically this like evil lord kind of guy, he basically he wants this book, like basically like we have the key, I think we had the key or something like that, and basically we were trying to find the book because like if the key was stolen, then basically he would have access to the book, and then bad things would happen, basically take over the world. That I don't know, I wrote it like when I was like 10 or 11, so don't judge. But basically in the story, there was a castle that we had to go to, and next to it was this mountain, and inside the mountain was the book. Now, what's interesting is in the Amazon book that I found, it talks about a castle with a library, and basically it talks about this Book of Realms in their meditations that they did, and they mentioned Jesus, and just maybe where's the castle? So yeah, page 2, if you want to look at it. Basically it was interesting because like the whole story revolved around that, and in the Amazon book it was basically kind of the same principle. It was like but it was I mean obviously the book that that it was my story wasn't exactly in the castle, it was in the mountain beside the castle, but still the principle is the same. The fact that they had the same elements in it was wild to me. I was like, what? That that was very symbolic. Maybe it doesn't match up, but a lot of dreams that I've had later on that kind of reflected similar, because God gives people visions and dreams and stuff like that. And sometimes the dreams and stuff like that I get it's very symbolic of something that happens in real life, and usually that happens in the future, or usually I can't predict how it's going to be, and that's typically, a lot of dreams are like that in the Bible. It's like, you're not gonna get the exact answer right then and there, but usually it's revelation that I receive a little bit after what happens, and it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. But yeah, so like literally in the first page, or like the first chapter, is like my journey to the castle, and it's like the Lamb of God, Jesus, and like it talks about, basically his or her encounter with Jesus, a little bit, and it's a good book. I recommend it. I think it's full of good wisdom. I think it definitely teaches people how we should act towards each other, and there's a lot of things in it I agree with. Do I think you should take it to heart? Maybe not fully. I don't know. I mean, in terms of what's biblical versus not, I don't know. I'm still trying to decipher some of this stuff and understand it. But this was very spiritually significant, where it was like, okay, like, how did I write a story? And this came out in 2023, by the way. So ain't no way I would have, I could have known about this book and wrote about it when I was a kid. Like, this came out after I wrote the story that I found, with this book. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah. And I mean, and not only that, right? So like, that's crazy. Like, that's wild. But in the book, it spoke to a lot of my own personal, the way that I felt at the time. And, it just spoke to me. Like, I can't even, like, yeah, it spoke to my situation and how I felt. Just throughout the whole book, it was just like, whoa. I was like, this is interesting. This is interesting stuff. And so I was like that kind of pushed me over the edge. I was like, all right, there's something spiritual going on here, more than material. There's something else out there, and I don't know what. It's like, I'm fairly certain it's Jesus, but it's like, wasn't sure, and so, and I mean, the fact that I'm, still not sure after all this, I mean, that tells you something about me, how skeptical I am. But yeah, so, all right, so that's crazy, right? That's not even crazy. All right, that's not even like the craziest story that I have. So just, again, I'm telling you, this is just, it was just the beginning. So I did some like volunteer work. I'm based out of Michigan. So I did some volunteer work in Detroit. I had an opportunity through the church to clear out some rubble in Detroit, and God had really, kind of put it on my heart, just the situation out in Detroit. And actually before that, I had several, oh man, I'm just thinking of some of the other stuff, the other, crazy stuff that has happened. Man, I have to say, okay, if you're patient with me, if you're willing to stick with me to the end of this video, like, I really appreciate it. And, if you're open-minded, that would be great. But so God had been really convicting me to talk to people, and well, in a way, spread the gospel, right? And talk to people, and, and obviously I'm not social at all. The idea of talking to even a stranger about literally any topic is very, nerve-wracking. I get anxiety from it. And so, and he kind of convicted me to start, talking to homeless people. And, I had quite a few experiences that, were like, wow, like, and it really required me to step out of my comfort zone. Like, God had really been convicting me about this. Like, there were so many times where I failed to talk to people, and then other times when I was like, I did it, but obviously it was just kind of a weird experience. But other times were very significant. I know there was one person who I talked to, a couple of people. So, I talked to a couple of people who, like, their speech was kind of hard to understand. So, like, you're trying to help this person, right? Or you're trying to, just learn their story. And they, it was very hard to understand them. And obviously, me being selfish and, just really only thinking about myself, and it's like, man, I really, I'm not motivated to talk to people, and just talking with these people, it's like, oh, man, I don't understand them. I can't even I can't even understand them. It's awkward, and it's for me, and it's weird. And so I went with it. I tried to go with it. I tried to be helpful where I could. I even, gave some money to people who probably, I'm not experienced in helping homeless people. So, like, I know some people take advantage of it, and they're not always pure with their intentions and their motives. So I probably gave money to people who probably didn't deserve it, or, probably were just going to spend it on things that didn't matter. And I was shown a little bit of that in some of the interactions that I've had. And but it was still enough to where it's like, it was significant, and it changed my perspective on some things, and it just made me think about how hopeless their situation is, and how easy I have it, and how blessed that I am to be in the situation that I am in. And so there was one day when I walked to no, sorry, I didn't walk. I was driving and getting food. I was gonna get food from this marketplace, and I saw this woman in a wheelchair, and like I wanted to, like, well, I don't know if I wanted to. I was like, it was more of like, I felt kind of a conviction. I was like, maybe I should pray over her. It's like, but I was like, obviously I was hesitant because I have to talk to a stranger, and I think, like, God was convicting me basically, like, to, like, pray over, like, healing and stuff, like, at the time. So I was like, heck no, like, because, like, what if she's not healed and then I look like a fool, like, so I was like, man, I really don't want to do this. I'm like, all right, fine. If I'll pick up my food, because, like, I know she was going to this Kroger, parking lot. She was heading that way, so I was like, oh, well, maybe she's gonna be Kroger. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pick up my food, and then if she's still there, like, if I go through the Kroger parking lot, if she's there, I will get out and pray for her. But if she's not there, then I won't do it. So I get my food, I get over there, she's not there. So I was like, oh, I'm home free. And I drive by, and I see this man sitting in this bench, and I was like, that it just stood out to me. And again, I felt convicted, whether or not it was my own conviction or whatever, doesn't matter. And I just remember I was like, because he looked kind of homeless, right? Like, and so I don't know. I was, in a way, I picked favorites, and who I wanted to talk to or who I didn't want to talk to. And even in my friendships and, relationships, it was usually people who you know, looked good, or, you know, who I thought met a standard in my own mind. And I didn't realize it. Like, I think, like, I wasn't really that conscious of it until this interaction. But I ended up talking to this guy, and he was a little bit drunk, and, like, he had been drinking, probably smoking and stuff like that. And, I mean, obviously his clothes, were very dirty, very, it was just, probably not the most pleasant, interaction, obviously. But, I just said, all right, like, I'll see if he, I don't know, sit with him, and I don't know, just try to be there for him. And because I know that, I'd already felt convicted about these other things. And so I was like, okay, I'll sit with you. And, I got these chicken wings, and I was like, it was almost like I could offer him a few, and so I went up to him. I was like, hey, I was like, I didn't really know what to say. So I was just like, I kind of just sat with him just to be there with him. And I offered him some of my chicken. He picked it up, but but then, like, he didn't even take a bite. He just kind of, like, he grabbed it, he looked at it for a second, and then he was like, he put it back. He gave it back to me, which was interesting. It's like weird. And I talked with him, and he was very knowledgeable, actually. Like, he kept talking about, like, like ancient, like, Celtic druids and stuff like that, and I had no idea what that was. But that is a real thing. Like if you look it up, and it was just like kind of history of that, and like he was talking about like some people I didn't know about, and I was like, I looked it up on the spot for some of the things. So I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing. It was just a weird conversation, and but he made sense. Like, he made perfect sense. Like, it wasn't like he wasn't, he was speaking incoherently. And then, just in our conversation, like, I was believing him. Like, I believed what he was saying, because I was like, oh, he's actually pretty knowledgeable. And like, and I was trying to share Jesus with him. And, I was trying to I just be there, and just, I don't know what I could have, what I could have provided in that moment, or what I was even doing there, but I was just like, I don't know, I just stuck it out. And he, all of a sudden, he looks at me, and like, he had been, like, his whole demeanor changed in that moment. And he looks at me, and he stares at me for a second, and he's like, did I present myself appropriately to you? And I like, that stuck with me. For some reason, it just, like, it pierced my soul. Like, it just, like, with everything that I had been going through up to that point, and it just really got me thinking. And I was like, and he repeated it. Like, I was like, yeah. I mean, yeah. I was like, you're fine, dude. Like, I was like, that's fine. But like, I mean, when he was talking, like, he occasionally spit like a little bit onto me. And I was like, oh man, like, it's like, all right, it's like, oh gosh, and but it just really hit me. And then he says the same thing again, kind of like what Jesus did, with like, with Peter, and just like, do you love me? Feed my sheep, and he said it again. He was like, did I present myself appropriately to you? And I was like, yeah. I was like, and then I think he said it a third time, and I was like Peter with that. I was like, I was hurt by that. I was like, man, I was like, shoot, I'm like, it just made me think of that. And it just made me realize that he's a human being. He's just as valuable as as I am or anybody else, whether it's someone you know, a friend, whether it's your friend, your family, or a complete stranger, like they're a human being. They're made in the image of God. And it just, it touched me. It was just revelation that just took me away. Like, I wasn't expecting that at all. And so, again, like, that's not even the craziest thing. Again, I'm just piling on stuff, the experiences that I've had over the past year or two. Because I've only been a Christian for about 2 years now. So, like, I'm not making this stuff up. Like, man, yeah, I just like, so yeah, it's crazy. And I still doubt. I still was doubting. I was still like, okay, well, I don't know. Okay, but like, I don't know. It's just all of these things being significant. It made me think. And the only reason that was happening was like because I was trying to be obedient to what God was having for me. Like, I was trying to turn to Him and trying to understand truth. Like, I'm seeking truth and like what the reality of this actually is. God has done more for me than I care to admit. He's been very merciful to me. I don't deserve His love. If I'm being honest, I'm very selfish. I'm very, I cared only for myself for the longest time. And I still struggle with that. I still struggle with, loving others, and, sacrificially, is what I mean. And, I'm pretty merciful and understanding, especially more so now than ever, just because, if I don't forgive people for what they've done to me, I don't deserve to be forgiven for anything that I've done. So, so yeah, it's just stuff like that. And, so probably one of the craziest experience I've had. So back to basically Detroit, right? So I did, some cleanup of rubble of this burned down duplex in Detroit, through the church. I had never really visited Detroit like that much. Like, I passed through it, but never really stuck around for any of the sketchy neighborhoods there. If you haven't been to Detroit, if you haven't been to some of the neighborhoods there, I recommend that you take a trip. Just go there one of these days, and it will open your eyes to the living situation of some people. And it's sad. It really opened my heart when I was there, to that. And I don't think it was by accident that I volunteered for that. And so let's see. So because of that, just seeing the situation down there, it got me really thinking about that. And I felt convicted that, like, I wanted to help in some way. Like, God has blessed me, I think, financially. I'm 25 years old. Like, I was 22, I think. Yeah. Let's see. No, this was during COVID. I think it was COVID. Just after COVID, I had gotten my first house. So, like, that's how blessed I was. I didn't have any college debt, because I got a job that I really loved. And God had blessed me financially to where I didn't have any debt for college, and thank God for that. So I feel like I'm a little bit ahead of the curve with that. So I wanted to do something like, whether it's like financial or like some way that I could help. And I felt convicted just out of the blue, just one day, just kind of impulsively, to go down to Detroit. And obviously, like, I don't know how you, I don't have it mastered how you hear from God, what you do to like hear exactly from God, what, like, yeah, I don't know the like if there's a strategy or, or what, but sometimes it's just pure conviction and pure, like, I don't know, maybe I just need to do this, and just take a leap of faith sometimes. So I don't know. My thoughts can be radically different. It can be good, it can be bad thoughts, etc. But basically, I had the thought to go down to Detroit. So I was like, I'm not gonna just believe this, because I'm like, bro, like, I'm not going alone to a city where, it's kind of sketchy neighborhoods. I'm like, I'm not doing that, bro. Like, you, like, all right, it's like, God, like, you're gonna have to give me a specific street name or something, like somewhere like specific, like you have to tell me exactly where to go, because if you don't do that, like, there's no way I could do this. There's no way I'm gonna go to a sketchy city, sketchy area. I'm like, I'm gonna get killed. I'm gonna get robbed. I'm gonna die, basically. So I was like, all right, God, if you want me to go, like, you're gonna have to give me a specific place. And a few minutes later, I just get this random thought. It's like Connecticut Street, and I was like, so I was like, is that even a real place? I'm like, I was just kind of random, right? So it's like, okay, fine. I was like, all right. It was a real place. It was in Detroit, and it was in a sketchy neighborhood, of course. I'm like, dude. So like, I signed myself up for this. I was like, all right, like, fine, like, I'll go. Like, I was like, all right, you know what? Like, at this point, I'm like, I can't make that stuff up. Like, I've never been to Connecticut Street, Detroit. So I was like, all right, fine, I'll go. I had some preconceived notions of maybe what I was going to be doing there. Like, I thought I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to be ministering to somebody or like something. And I was like, all right, when I get there, like, cause I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to be doing there. I was told a place to go, and then that was it. So I was like, okay, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I just, I don't know, I'll walk the block and, just walk around, come back to my car. And if nothing happens, then nothing happens. And it was all for nothing, whatever. It's like, okay, that's low risk. Like, whatever, I'll do that. Fine. And it's like, okay. So I go down, and, after work, cause I was working that day. And, I get down there, and, nothing really happened while I was walking the block. I did feel a conviction to knock on this specific house's door, which I didn't do that, because I was like, I'm not doing that. I was like, I can't do that. I was like, I tried. I was like, but I just couldn't. So I was like, all right, fine. Yeah, I was like, I can't do it. And I was like, dang, I wish I could have, but I was like, whatever. But before that, I had already, at that point, I was like, all right, like, I think I came here for what I came here for. Even still, but I was like so focused on going to that specific street that, I missed potentially opportunities to talk to people while I was down there. But, before I even got to that street, I was getting off the highway, and literally first thing I see when I get to, the stop sign, there's a homeless guy to the left, basically begging for money. I was like, he like, we lock eyes, and, I just smile, and he smiles. And so I continue on, and, I turn to the right, and like, there's an intersection, and there's like at least maybe 3, 4, 5 homeless people sitting on this intersection, like basically, around the, basically the intersection block that, and there's like a couple different people, just, they looked homeless, I don't know, they were just like, one was just, like sitting by themselves, one was against a building. It was like, there's just so many people in the same block that was like, it was like, what is going on? Like, there's like nobody, able to provide for these people. And I know that, obviously some people that, they don't want the help, or like, I don't know, they just kind of, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know their situation. But it further put things on my heart, and I was like, man. And so I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm called to be a financial manager of some sort to help people. I don't know, but it was significant nonetheless, and I wouldn't have seen that had I not listened and went where I was told to go. So that was interesting. I was like, okay, well, that, and I know some of you agnostics are gonna be like, okay, that's great. Still could be coincidence, like, and I get that. I would be skeptical too. And so here's where things get interesting, because literally a couple weeks later, okay, I get a dream, and I've been doing dream logs, because typically, like, I've been noticing there's been like several dreams that are very symbolic in some way. Like, usually there's some dreams that like actually come true in some context, oddly specific context, like where it just lines up very perfectly, like multiple elements in the dream. It's not just like, oh, I dreamt I was at the grocery store and I went to the grocery store the next day. Whoa, like no. There were several elements from the dream that were very symbolic, or maybe certain situations in the dreams that were symbolic to something I was struggling with, or things like that. And maybe you can, some of that, maybe you can write off as psychological. Fine. You can take that point. But this dream was probably the most spiritually significant ever. Actually, there's two dreams that lined up with this one trip that I ended up doing. So one of the dreams, which I had received before this, was of there was a flood that was like happening. So basically, like in the dream, I was in this car with my family. I believe my brother was there, which he lives over in Canada. So so I don't really see him that much unless like on special occasion. And we were on this beach, which, we have a property up north that's actually along the beach. So it's, really nice. And so I'm in this car, and we're watching like basically the lake. We're like, we're kind of like, just kind of viewing that. And it got like dark and kind of stormy, and my parents were there as well, and I believe my sister was as well, and so we were just sitting in a car. We were like looking out into the lake, and it started getting like stormy, and like waves were getting bigger and bigger, and eventually it started reaching like under our car. And like I was noticing this. I was like, guys, like we should probably maybe back up a little bit, like maybe go to the house, like I don't know, like maybe just get out of there. And eventually got to the point where it was reaching our car. I'm like, guys, like we gotta go. So we started driving, and we drove back to the house, and we got in. And during that time there was like a hurricane or something like that. Or like a tornado or something, like basically like thunderstorms, stuff like that. Like, so probably a hurricane or something like that. And and we get inside the house, and I was like, me and my mom were like in the basement of the house, and then the rest of my family was like kind of in like kind of like upstairs in the dining room, and then I hear or like we feel this like staticky stuff, like almost like lightning's about to strike, and sure enough, it strikes, like it strikes the house, and then I woke up like shortly after that, and so literally that same morning, I see a video where a guy has a similar dream, basically I thought it was something more general of like something that's just coming to America in general, like there's a storm coming. I didn't know that it was actually to do with this trip. So, and it might, you might think like, okay, like when I say this, you're probably like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean it lines up, but that's usually how my dreams are. It's like very symbolic. There's certain elements that like make me think of, it's like, whoa, like this actually lines up with that, but I wouldn't have guessed it had I not had the context for this trip. So like I wouldn't know ahead of time, and I wouldn't be able to change that. So it's like, I don't think God would give you a dream where you could like just instantly change whatever facts of the future, right? Like, because like otherwise, like you could influence the future, and then So, anyways, so I get a separate dream, and then this is like a while ago. So but the dream that I had that convinced me to go on this one trip, I had a dream where I had basically we were trying to find this nuclear facility. I don't know, it's like sounds kind of odd, just random. Like we were in this mission control center, and yeah, we were just trying to find this nuclear facility, and there's other people in the room. I don't know who they were. It was like kind of a blur for the most part, other than there was like we were like trying to find the address, and when we got an address, and it was 901 Antonio Street, Newark. Now, I didn't really know where Newark like was. Like I had this conviction that it was in New Jersey, but I didn't I had heard about Newark, but I didn't know exactly where it was. But where it was located, it was definitely like on the east side. Like, so I knew like from the address like that it was going to be like to the east side of the U.S., but I didn't know where. And so I woke up when we got the dream, or when we got the address, and I didn't think much of it for a little bit, and then I was like, wait a minute, like that address seems pretty specific. So I was like, okay. So I look up the address, right? And I didn't really find anything for that, right? But in my search, because I was like, was it Antonio? Was it Antoine or something? Like I don't know. Like, but I thought it was Antonio. So I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, and so I didn't find in Antonio Street, Newark. But what I did find was 901 Anthony Street. Now, I was like, that's pretty close, but I'm like, that's not quite it, But I'm like, usually my dreams are symbolic, so I was like, well, maybe it is right, and maybe I just misinterpreted it in the dream, or like maybe I'm misremembering it or something like that. Well, I was like, I wasn't fully convinced, so I was like, all right, let me check out like what this place is, because like I don't know, maybe there's some significance there. I look at the map preview, and I got my phone right here. All right, like in the thing, right? So I'm gonna type 901 Anthony Street, and you can do this on your phone. Like, open up Apple Maps, and you can see the same map preview that I'm seeing today. So 901 Anthony Street, Newark. Or sorry, yeah, Anthony. So I'm clicking on that, right? And so there's like a map preview, right? Like in the corner. So you click on that, right? Now, what I find interesting is there's this van that has Spanish on it, and there's basically like the acronym CIA, which I found was very symbolic to the dream that I had, because like mission control setting, nuclear stuff, like all military like stuff. I'm like, I was like, okay, that's interesting, I was like, and it was like Spanish, so I was like, okay. And so if you like go down the street a bit, right, if you like click over, and sorry, I'm like trying to look at the screen and look at the bus at the same time. Look what the back says. Church bus. So I was like, okay. I'm like, this is kind of God related. And I was like, okay. I was like, you kind of convinced me. I was like, all right, well, now I feel like I kind of have to look at this. I was like, all right. I was like, oh. And then, I kind of saw this person just like on the corner of that same street. I was like, it got me thinking about the homelessness situation. And I felt convicted, like I needed to go there, for some reason. I don't know why. I'm like, I can't get a break. I'm like, man, I gotta go. Like, I was like, God, do you really want me to go? Mind you, I live in Michigan. Okay, I live in Michigan. So I have to travel 8 to 10 hours to get to Newark by driving, or I could fly, but I'm like, I don't fly very often. I'd probably rather drive, honestly. But I was like, and this was on a Thursday. I was like, I have to take off work. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm like, but if I deny this, I'm like, I could miss a good opportunity, because God has showed me, little opportunities in the past. So I was like, I don't know. Should I, like, I don't know. I was very doubting. I was like, God, I don't know if I could do this. It's like, but I ended up going. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I was like, I like my job, but I'm like, I'll take some PTO, whatever. PTO, I'm like, I can take PTO. I'm like, I probably need a break anyways. So I'm like, all right, I'll go. So I packed up my stuff, and I packed for just a day. I was like, I'll drive there and then see what happens. If nothing happens, I'll just drive back. It's like, whatever. I'm like, it's gonna suck because it's like 8 hours one way, so it's like, okay, 16 plus hours of driving, so that's fun. But I was like, all right, fine. I'm like, God, this better be worth it. So I was like, all right, let's do it. I'm like, all right, I have to know, I have to do it. So I went, and literally within 30 minutes of driving, let me see if I can pull up. Maybe they have a picture of the van that I've seen, but basically, there was this utility van 30 minutes into my drive. All right. Now, keeping in mind, like the military themed of the dream, right? There's like, I don't know, there's like United One, or something like that. And basically had like military decor all over it. And I was like, all right, this is kind of awesome. But I was like, just seeing like different things. And remember, in the dream, I was looking for this nuclear facility, right? I get to Ohio, and I kid you not, I pass right next to a nuclear power plant. So, and I have a picture of that too, because I know it's very hard to believe. That was on my drive. I know that it's kind of blurry, but basically on my way, there was a nuclear power plant, and yes, that is a nuclear power plant. I passed by it. I didn't get the ability to take a picture of the sign, but if you look, like if you map from Michigan to Newark, you probably see like if you look up the nuclear power plants in the Ohio area, there's a nuclear power plant there, and we passed right alongside where the sign was, so I verified that it was actually a nuclear power plant. It wasn't like something else. I mean, I don't know what else could be, but I was like, dude, what? I was shocked by that point. So I knew I was on the right track the minute I hit Ohio. So I was like, okay. I was like, this this is definitely not a coincidence anymore. So I get to Newark, and on my drive there, I texted my parents. I texted my coworker who was the one who brought me to Christ initially, who lives out in Iowa, and my mom calls me, and or she texts me saying that there's supposed to be like a flood warning, which I find interesting to the first stream that I said, and yeah, basically it's just like, yeah, in that area that I was going, there was going to be a flood, or like flood warning because of a hurricane. So I was like, It made me think of that dream as I was driving there too. I was like, that's interesting. I'm like, I wonder if that has any significance. But I was like, I wasn't really thinking much of it, because I was like, I don't know, it didn't really seem. I was like, I was up north though. But after that whole trip, I went straight up north because on the weekend, like my extended family, so my brother and his kids, so my niece and nephew were there. So I was like, once I went up, once I was like, once I found out that they were going to be up north that weekend, I was like, oh man, I was like that dream just made a lot more sense, and especially after everything that took place after I was in Newark, it began to make even more sense. So I went to Newark, right? I get there, because I have some preconceived notions about like what I'm doing, but in reality, I don't even know what the heck I'm doing there. So I'm like, I get there, and I was expecting not that many people. Like I was expecting like, okay, there'll be like one or two people, maybe there'll be some people outside, I don't know, getting their mail, or I don't know. There's like, it looked like a neighborhood. I didn't really look at the preview too much. Turns out there was a train/bus station behind the street. So I was like, I didn't realize that at the time. So I was like, oh, I was like, that's interesting. But there were so many people. Like, I was like, how the heck, like, if I'm supposed to minister to somebody, how the heck am I going to identify who to talk to and stuff like that? On my way over, and this is significant a little bit later in this story, but my friend, my coworker friend, who's Christian, he called me and basically I was going to explain to him, kind of what I was doing, because I was like, man, I gotta tell you about this, because this is like, I'm going on this crazy trip, and he asked me, or like, basically, I told him about the street, and he and I was like, I didn't find an Antonio Street, but I found an Anthony Street. Turns out, well, my friend is Hispanic, so he knows a lot more Spanish than I do. And he's like, you realize that Anthony is, or Antonio is Spanish for Anthony, right? I was like, I didn't know that. I was like, I didn't know that at all. So that is significant because, I mean, if you think back to the van in the preview with the van is in Spanish. Secondly, which I'm getting to this, but basically, so like I get to the train station, right? I get out of my car. I do the same thing I was doing in Detroit. I was going to walk the block, and then if nothing happens, then I was like, all right, I'm just going to, I don't know, just nothing happened. So it was like, I'll just walk back. There were so many people though. I was so nervous. I was like, dude, what am I doing here? Like I was like, Lord, I can't do this. Like, I don't know how I'm going to talk to people here. And it's like, how many do I talk to? Like, who do I talk to? Like, what do I say? Like, am I going to pray over someone? Am I just spreading the gospel? Am I just, I'm telling people about Jesus? Like, I don't know why I'm here. Like, I not sure why I'm there. And so, I get to the train station. Like, I start walking, and I'm like, oh, Lord, like, what am I doing? And I get to the train station, and there's even more people waiting at the train station. I'm like, dude, what the heck? So I'm like, I don't even, like, what am I doing here? And I look over, and I was like, I'm just looking at different people, and I was like, I don't know. Like, Lord, like, what do I do? Like, I'm just praying to God, like, I'm like I'm just kind of standing around because I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing here. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll like walk down the station a bit. I don't know. And while I'm thinking about what the heck I'm gonna do, I get to the end of the station, like lengthwise, and I turn around. I'm like, God, like, you got to show me something, because like I am not gonna be able, like, I don't know who to talk to, or what. And thank God that he did end up showing me something. But I look over at this one couple, and like at the exact same time, like literally the exact same time, and that's probably what made me feel a little bit convicted to go talk to them. But the husband of the couple looks over at me at the exact same time. I lock eyes with him, and like in my mind, I was like, "That's it." Like I felt convicted. Like that was who I needed to talk to. So I was like, okay. I was like, we're locked eyes now, and I'm like, so I start to like go and like basically approach him and talk to him. Guess what? He couldn't speak English. He spoke Spanish. So I was like, dude, not only do I have to like, I don't know, like, I was like, I don't even know what basically in my mind, I was like, well, maybe I'll just pray for him. Like, I don't know. I was like, I'll just pray over someone. Like, I don't know. Do you need prayer for something? I don't know. And, he spoke Spanish, which is interesting because you think back to the dream, right? With the address that I received the address in Spanish, but the street that I went to was in English. That's wild. That is like, that's beyond symbolic, like, of what the conversation that we had. So, and I mean, it doesn't stop there. Like, so I talked to the couple, and I'm trying to like indicate, I'm like, do you need, you want prayer? Like, it's like just kind of like, it's like, you need prayer, like, like kind of indicating with my hands, because I'm like, I don't speak Spanish. And he ends up like having the idea to call his daughter, and thank God that his daughter spoke Spanish or spoke English. So I was like, that was wonderful. And so I was speaking to her, the daughter, basically to translate on behalf of the parents. And I was like, I was just, I was just kind of wondering, like, if your parents needed prayer or anything. I found out that the parents were Catholic, and the daughter was Christian. So, I don't know what denomination, maybe Protestant. I don't know. Like, and I just found it interesting. I was like, oh, they're already, of the faith, and so I prayed. I ended up praying over the father, and on my way over, this was like after I was already convicted, after I was gonna like make the decision to go talk to them, I noticed that he had a cane that he was using like to help help with like walking and stuff like that. And it was like a walking cane. So he seemed like he needed it. And I was like, yeah, like, what would you like prayer for? And he immediately points to his back. He's like, basically like, hey, like I could use prayer over that. And so I was like, okay. And I was like, I can pray over like, physical healing, basically I think it had to do with his like condition, where he had to like use that cane. Cause on his lower back, he had a scar. So I don't know if he had surgery or like what, but like, yeah, he was like, that was the one thing that he pointed to, the one thing that he needed prayer for. So I was like, okay. And I was like, I was like, all right, I'll pray over that. So I did. I just kind of took a leap of faith, and I asked him to stand up. See, it's like make sure that he can walk, and and stuff like that. See if he was, healed. And he actually spoke English, but just to say 2 words, and he was like, no pain, no pain. And it was like, I was like, whoa. I was like, praise God for that. Yeah. And so we ended our conversation there, and he actually is getting up to leave, and I'm basically heading back to my car, because I did what I needed to do, I guess, and I was like, all right, that's what I'm here for. That's what I came for. And I was like, oh, that was awesome. So he starts walking, and I didn't like, I occasionally looked back, at kind of as I was, heading off and he was heading off, I was kind of like looking back, over, just like, see, I was like, are you gonna like, I was like, because I'm like trying to see, like, is he like fully healed? And he starts like, he's not even using the cane. Like he's just like, he starts walking, like he's still like a little bit like, like maybe awkwardly walking, but like he's hauling butt like across the train yard. And I'm like, what? I was like, he wasn't using the cane for support at all. I was like, bro. I was so like, I don't know, just everything up to that point, like if I can just summarize like everything, and then yeah, so I came back, and I went up north, and my sister is not yet a believer, unfortunately. She's still very much agnostic and like scientific, it's like all science and stuff like that. And I mean, I can understand that, and I was able to share that story with them, because they were wondering like, what, like, so tell us about this trip, like, why did you just like, you trekked all the way to Newark for this? I'm like, dude, I don't even know. But yeah, praise God for that. Yeah, it was so it was interesting that I talked with, I basically told that to my sister, and that dream makes sense now, the first dream that I had, because in a way that the lightning, I feel like I feel like maybe it was for just like a spark of like the faith that maybe my sister needs. And so it was just, again, like all of these dreams, all of these things that I've been getting in my spirit, it transcends material understanding. I can't, I have no explanation for it other than Jesus is the way. And I've been searching for the truth of our existence and like reality and like my whole life, and I had not found it until I met Christ, and just the journey that I've been taking with God on that. And I'm not gonna say it was easy. I had asked God many times for like signs, and because like I've heard testimonies, people hearing from God audibly, from demonic experiences, like from people. I'm like, and it's hard to believe, right? But I also know, like, I've been with them long enough to where I'm like, they're not crazy. Like, their experience was very valid. And now that I have had my own experience around that, it's valid. Like, it validates that. And all I can suggest to you is to take that same leap of faith and to trust God and and to just let Him show you. It doesn't start with just asking and well, I mean, yeah, you can ask for things, obviously, but God's not obligated to fulfill it in the way that maybe you want. And there were certain ways that I wanted God to show things to me, because I was like, oh, on the fence. And it wasn't like until recently with, like, especially the Newark trip and just some of the things that have happened recently to me, where it was like, that really solidified my faith, So it was a journey. Like, I don't think there was a moment where it's like, I didn't believe yesterday, but now I do, It's like, it was kind of like, there was a lot that added up that was just like, it just kept tipping me over more and more and more if I just stayed with it and I just persisted through all of that. And for those of you, maybe you just haven't heard from God yet, but I encourage you just to seek Him, and He makes things known if you're willing to be humble enough and you're willing to just surrender to that and just go on a journey with Him. He makes that known, and maybe that's why He did not show Himself immediately to me, so that I could tell you this story, and that you could, learn something from it, and maybe seek Him yourself. And I don't know, I can't say how God uses people. To say that I understand everything, I don't. I don't. But I know that there is a spiritual realm above of the besides this. I know that I can't explain how I'm able to do those, like how I was put in those positions. I can't explain the patterns and the coincidences that I've experienced. It's more than just coincidence. It has to be. And I just encourage you to just have an open mind around that, because I can't go back to that. It doesn't make sense. I have felt, I hit a low a couple days ago, and there was, I was debating on going to church, but God lifted me up in a way as like I just felt His love for me, it's almost like I grieved God, and He loved me so much, and I can't, and He loves you too, and He wants the best for you, and you just have to give Him a shot and give Him a chance. Just because you don't hear Him the way that you want to, it doesn't mean He doesn't love you. It just means He has a different plan, one that's better, and you just have to trust that. And so, but yeah, it was interesting. Just, everything that I've experienced, this whole testimony of stuff. This is a long video. I didn't expect it to be an hour and a half, to be honest, over an hour and a half now. But yeah, I just wanted to share that. I just, there's beauty in this world, and there's evil. There's corruption. There's suffering, and I think the Bible puts it the most clear. Because any worldview has to explain these things, and because okay, we've arrived at like a spiritual element, but like obviously that doesn't prove Jesus. But it just still, you have to have your faith in something, and so I just choose to have faith in Jesus, because it's just that he turned my whole life around. I would be in a completely different place right now if not for him. So, but yeah, so that's kind of my story I wanted to share, and I hope that kind of leads you to think a little bit differently, open-mindedly about your worldview, and potentially have a change in mind about it. And I don't know. It's up to you to believe what you believe, but I just know Jesus is the way for me, and it's just crazy to think, even just like with near-death experiences, and stuff like that, the spiritual's real. It's just a matter of like, what's the truth outside of this, and so I just find it interesting. Obviously, you have to test every spirit, because there are spirits. I've encountered spirits that are very seem very demonic in nature, just very not good. Just thoughts that are just horrific, and but then I've had good thoughts too, and wonderful convictions and beauty that I've experienced. So, and the hiddenness of God. It's like, well, why hasn't God shown himself in a way that I can see that, or like experience him? And the Bible, the Bible acknowledges the hiddenness of God, and but like, just look around you, like creation itself. I never really understood that. When I was first reading, I was like, the hiddenness, like creation. I was like, well, that doesn't necessarily prove it. But like, think about the fact that reality, like the reality in which we live, exists it exists. So it's like, either it always existed, which I don't know if you've noticed, but this universe is very ordered, very fine-tuned in a way. I'll use that argument because honestly, it's true. It's true. Gravity acts the same way. Matter acts the same way. Like, every day, all the time, things are unchanging about it, and it's not random. Like, it's the fact that we're able to think about these things and like comprehend that, even comprehending consciousness itself. Like, we're aware that there's a perspective. So it's like, it's interesting. I don't think, like, how can matter be aware of something that's outside of matter? And so I don't know. It's interesting, but yeah. So that I will probably end the video here. But I just wanted to share that as a testimony, because I feel like that when I've experienced so much that I feel like I have to share this, and yeah. So, but thank you for listening. I don't anticipate making more videos, but I just wanted to share this because it was just so significant, and I hope that it reaches somebody who needs to hear it, and I don't know, makes a difference, and hopefully that you can put your trust in Jesus as much as I do, and maybe even more than I do, because I'm I can be skeptical, but anyways, yeah, thank you, and signing off. Thank you.